February 1960, Daytona International Speedway. 7 Plymouth Valiants line up against Ford Falcons and Chevrolet Corvairs in NASCAR's first compact car race. Under each Valiant hood sits an engine that Chrysler's own executives considered an economy motor, a humble 6-cylinder designed to move groceries, not win races. The green flag drops. Within hours, every racing strategist in Detroit would be asking the same question. What the hell just happened? Those 7 Valiants didn't just win. They finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. NASCAR would never run another compact car race again. The sweep at Daytona wasn't supposed to happen. The Slant Six wasn't built for glory. It was built because Chrysler had a problem, and that problem had been festering since 1925. For over 3 decades, Chrysler's 6-cylinder engines had remained fundamentally unchanged. The L-head flathead design that powered their economy cars was overweight, underpowered, and hopelessly obsolete. Meanwhile, Chrysler's V8 division was producing legends, the early Hemis, the big block wedges, engines that dominated racetracks and defined American muscle. Nobody in Highland Park cared about the 6-cylinder. It was a relic. Then came the Valiant project. Chrysler needed a compact car to compete with imports flooding American driveways. The design called for a sleek, low hood line. The ancient flathead was too tall to fit. It was also too long, too heavy, and too inefficient for a modern economy car. Engineer Willem Wertmann was handed an impossible specification. Design a new 6-cylinder from scratch. Make it shorter. Make it lighter. Make it fit under a hood that hadn't been designed yet. He had 18 months. Wertmann's solution was elegantly radical. Instead of fighting the height problem, he tilted the entire engine 30 degrees to the right. But Chrysler executives saw only an economy motor. They had no idea what they'd actually built. The 30-degree tilt looked like a packaging compromise. It was actually an engineering masterstroke hiding in plain sight. By laying the cylinder block over to the passenger side, Wertmann's team achieved something conventional inline engines could not. The slant created space for intake and exhaust manifolds with runners of nearly equal length. In a traditional upright 6, the cylinder closest to the carburetor receives a richer mixture than the cylinder farthest away. Uneven distribution means uneven power delivery. The Slant Six eliminated this problem entirely. Each cylinder breathed identically. Each cylinder fired with the same force. The benefits compounded from there. Moving the water pump to the side of the block rather than the front shortened overall engine length by several critical inches. The lower profile dropped the center of gravity, improving vehicle handling. The deep-skirted block design placed the crankshaft well above the oil pan rails, creating exceptional structural rigidity. Chrysler specified a forged steel crankshaft supported by 4 main bearings. The result was an engine built like a bank vault. The specifications seemed modest. The 170 cubic inch version produced 101 horsepower. The larger 225 delivered 145 horsepower and 215 pound-feet of torque, numbers that would never threaten a V8. But hidden beneath those conservative ratings was a foundation engineered for far more stress than it would ever see in a grocery getter. A young Chrysler engineer named Tom Hoover recognized this immediately. Hoover had already made a name for himself experimenting with ram-tuned intake manifolds on V8 engines. When he examined the Slant Six architecture, He saw untapped potential that economy car buyers would never need. Then NASCAR announced the Cannonball Compact Division, a new racing series exclusively for six-cylinder compact cars. Hoover was assigned to make Chrysler competitive. The transformation he engineered was surgical and devastating. The Hyper-Pak package replaced the single-barrel carburetor with a Carter AFB 4-barrel mounted on a long-runner intake manifold specifically tuned for the engine's breathing characteristics. Dual cast-iron exhaust headers replaced the restrictive stock manifold. A high-lift camshaft with 276 degrees of duration opened the valves longer and higher. High-compression pistons raised the ratio from 8.5 to 1 to 10.5 to 1. The results exceeded all expectations. The 170 cubic inch engine jumped from 101 horsepower to 148. Race-prepared versions approached 196 horsepower. From 170 cubic inches, many production V8s of the era required twice the displacement to achieve similar output. Top speed in the lightweight Valiant exceeded 130 miles per hour. These were numbers on a dynamometer. Daytona would determine whether they translated to the track. February 1960. 7 Hyper-Pak Valiants lined up against Ford Falcons and Chevrolet Corvairs at Daytona International Speedway. The compact car race was designed to showcase the new generation of American economy vehicles. What happened instead was an execution. Marvin Panch's Valiant averaged 123.282 miles per hour on the road course. When the checkered flag dropped, Valiants occupied every position from 1st through 7th. Ford and Chevrolet were nowhere. The sweep was so complete, so humiliating to the competition, that NASCAR quietly cancelled the compact car series. There would never be another race. The results reached Chrysler president Lynn Townsend within hours. His teenage sons had been telling him that Plymouth and Dodge lacked street credibility. Daytona suggested otherwise. Townsend authorized expanded funding for performance development. Tom Hoover's success with the humble Slant Six earned him a new assignment. He would lead Chrysler's race engine division. 4 years later, Hoover unveiled the 426 Hemi. It dominated the 1964 Daytona 500 so thoroughly that NASCAR banned it. The principles Hoover had proven with the Slant Six, the tuned intake runners, the attention to airflow geometry, the structural rigidity, lived on in the most fearsome racing engine Chrysler ever built. The economy motor had fathered a monster. But the Slant Six's most remarkable chapter was still being written. Stories began surfacing from owners across America. 300,000 miles without a rebuild, 400,000, 500,000. Mechanics reported tearing down Slant Sixes, so worn and filthy inside that physics suggested they should have seized years earlier. They kept running. Chrysler noticed. They began installing Slant Sixes in applications demanding absolute reliability. Trucks, boats, combines, forklifts, irrigation pumps, industrial generators. Over 8 million units rolled off the Trenton, Michigan production line across 31 years of continuous manufacture. The Leaning Tower of Power had become unkillable. The Slant Six answered a question that Chrysler's V8 engineers had never thought to ask. Could intelligent design outperform brute displacement? Daytona proved it could. The lessons Tom Hoover extracted from that tilted economy motor informed everything that followed. The tuned intake runners, the obsessive attention to airflow geometry, the understanding that how an engine breathes matters more than how large it is. These principles migrated directly into Chrysler's V8 program. When the 426 Hemi debuted at Daytona in 1964 and Richard Petty lapped the field, it carried engineering DNA from a six-cylinder grocery car. The irony compounded over decades. Muscle cars faded. Emissions regulations strangled the big block V8s into obsolescence. The Slant Six kept running. It adapted to catalytic converters. It accepted electronic ignition. It soldiered through the malaise era while legendary engines disappeared from production entirely. The last Slant Six rolled off the line in 1991, powering marine and industrial applications 3 decades after its racing triumph. Willem Weertman had been handed an impossible constraint in 1958. Build something smaller, lighter, more efficient. He responded by tilting an engine 30 degrees and accidentally creating a legend. The motor Chrysler dismissed as merely practical became the most durable power plant Detroit ever produced. Today, Slant Sixes still run. In farm fields across the Midwest, they power irrigation pumps that haven't been rebuilt since the Nixon administration. In garages from Pennsylvania to California, enthusiasts bolt on Hyper-Pak manifolds and chase the ghosts of Daytona. The engine that Chrysler designed to be forgotten became impossible to kill. That's what happens when engineers solve problems instead of throwing displacement at them. If you've made it this far, you understand why some machines transcend their specifications. Subscribe now, because next time we're exploring another piece of engineering that changed everything they thought they knew.